I don't know what to do, so do something, anything. That is the theme of today's episode, is this phrase, do something, anything. Welcome to the Experience-ography Podcast. This podcast will be a journey of documenting the experiences that others and myself have as we navigate interesting, meaningful, and impactful moments and ideas in our lives. The goal is cultivating more sovereignty in our life, embracing our soul's path, and leaning into the gentle whispers of our heart with courageous action. I desire to graph and document the experiences and wisdom of those around me, as well as the whispers of my own heart, in the hopes that it will help at least one person. It is through experience that we find the most wisdom and fulfillment. So my hope is that every conversation on this podcast brings about a moment of reflection and an internal choice to act, no matter how small, to bring about a more fulfilling experience for yourself. In today's recording, I will be doing a little bit of reading off of a script and then just adding stuff as they come up and kind of, just going through notes and things like that. I'm experimenting in this episode with just starting, which is kind of today's theme, and, just kind of finding my method and my process through real-time practice rather than feeling like I have to do it a certain way. I only wanted to write 5 bullets of things, but I just kept writing, and I think that's how my brain processes. So it's that was just how I had to start and how I want to continue moving forward. So I'm working on relinquishing this pressure to communicate in a certain way or to create in a certain way or publish in a certain way. And I want to get better at just being more conversational, being more open and more authentic. And sometimes in order for me to communicate authentically and accurately, sometimes I just have to read off of a script to kind of make sure that I'm staying on track and not forgetting some of the core components that I wanted to talk about. So let's get into it. In today's episode, I'll be talking about this phrase, which is do something, anything, and alinea. So if you've been listening, thank you. I hope you get value out of the thoughts and experiences shared in today's podcast. Feel free to let me know in the comments or the DMs, what you got out of it, what you're taking away from it, etc. Do something, anything is a phrase I got from another book or person, which I believe was Mark Manson's Do Something principle, and perhaps one other source, but I can't remember. So I will, again, include as many links as possible into the show notes below. So if you're looking for anything that I mentioned today, feel free to just check that out below. Or if there's something I forgot to mention, just let me know and I'll add it. This is a perfect example of not waiting for perfection. Doing something, anything, rather than waiting for everything to be buttoned up before beginning. I've been getting frustrated with not creating on YouTube or creating for this podcast. So I have to embody this do something, anything principle. Do something, anything is a practice for those especially overwhelmed with indecisions, having too many options, and being overwhelmed. Of course, there are probably other things that would be more worth my time or that I should be doing. There's other client projects that I'm feeling behind on, there's other YouTube projects I want to get started on, there's so many different things that I know that I should, quote unquote, be working on instead of this. But sometimes when we're stuck, we just have to pick something, anything, to get the ball rolling. So when I'm in the space of thinking that there are better things for me to be doing or other things that I should be prioritizing, I end up just getting overwhelmed, and then I end up doing nothing at all, which is not helpful. So at this crossroad and lack of momentum, literally just pick something, anything. One of a few things are likely to happen. 1, it was a good choice, so you just stay with it. 2, it doesn't feel aligned, but at least now you're moving and you probably have a better idea of what to transition into next, so you just transition into that. Number 3, you're not sure if it's a good choice or a bad choice, but you stick with it. At least you are making momentum on something. Hidden benefits might reveal themselves to you in the future. This, for me, feels like the most important because my entire physiology and the quality of my thoughts begins to improve. More empowering thoughts instead of catastrophizing everything, feeling stuck, feeling trapped, etc. Regardless, this gets you out of a state of stagnation, indecision, or overwhelm because you're at least opening the valve to let some steam out. It might not feel like anything in the grand scheme of things, but it's at least something. And something, anything, is better than nothing at all. In a older video on a very similar concept, I said the phrase, I have to start somewhere if I want to go anywhere. Because it seems like there are a lot of times in my life where I'm not doing anything and I'm just like trying to plan things out and just overthinking things so much, neither excessive planning or just not doing it is going to get me towards whatever goal that I have, whatever change that I'm looking to make. For me, at least in this stage, and I think this is a stage I'll have to revisit multiple times in different areas of life, is that I just have to start somewhere if I want to get anywhere. And it's like fumbling around in the dark, kind of like fumbling through the forest for a while until it starts to become clear where the path actually is or what direction I even want to go. And that for me is the essence of, to go anywhere, you have to start somewhere. This is not the first time that I've had this thought. Some lessons take repetition. Some lessons have to be revisited multiple times. Some lessons we have to hear in a different way. We have to experience it through a different lens. But it's no less important, especially for people like me, especially for overthinkers, people that are procrastinating, etc. Like, we might just need to relearn the same thing over and over. We have to go through this process of starting in the beginning and just picking something and just starting it and then figuring it out from there and transitioning if we need to, but like just pick something, anything, and then figure it out as you go. For me, as of recording this episode, this is week A of the Alphabet Superset, which is a program created by Struthless on YouTube. And so if that's something you're interested in, I'll put a link to that as well. Basically 6 months of content inspired by the alphabet. So first week is A, second week is B, third week is C, and we're using each of those letters to inspire something that we create. So for me, that's going to be creating YouTube videos, and I'm using kind of a little cheat code of basically just doing podcasts. And if I make something more intentional, then that's great. But right now I have to pick something, anything, and it's just talking about this phrase, pick something, anything, for me to get moving and to kind of lean into the energy of week A so that I can get that momentum. Because it's like when I'm in that stuckness, it's very difficult for me to think clearly, for me to think in an empowering way, for me to have like higher quality thoughts. But I know, because I'm already experiencing this today just by like getting my camera gear together and figuring out where to film, that once I kind of start and or fulfill this little itch in my brain that I just have to do something, it doesn't matter what it is, I don't care about the quality, I don't care if like anyone watches it, like B week is, I think, probably going to end up feeling a lot better just because I'm finally doing something. Transitioning from a rambly thought to a scripted thought is kind of difficult sometimes. So in addition to that, with Alphabet Superset, I want to use the next 6 months of content creation. And this is not even like a full-on commitment, but it's like the intention I'm setting for myself, is that I want to use A through Z and these 6 months and just content I'm creating in general as a way of documenting personal experiences that I have in terms of personal growth. The phrase basically to use YouTube and content creation as a vehicle for personal growth. That's kind of like the ultimate goal. So yes, I want to use, at least this is the intention I'm setting on week A, that I will use these podcasts, these YouTube videos, the writings that I have as a vehicle for personal growth. Like, there's a different energy I get into just by showing up to the YouTube process, where I feel like I actually start growing. I start like, my dialogue inside my brain starts changing. I'm making more progress on things. And that is something that I want to keep leveraging. Like, never mind if it makes sense in a year or even 3 months from now, if this is the best use of my time. Because me trying to figure out what the best use of my time is the thing that's causing me to use none of my time in any way. So again, pick something, pick anything. So the theme for me is using content creation for personal growth. So facilitating experiences for myself that will involve personal growth. Like C week, I imagine, might end up being like a cooking themed week where maybe I learn how to make something. Like, that's just a version of personal growth for me. Like, just the overthinking of cooking and like having minimal to no experience with cooking and blah, blah, blah. And maybe I can ask for help on how to cook, etc. Like, maybe all of that week just gets to be centered around that theme and I talk about that. I, for myself, get that growth experience, that personal growth, that transformational process of going through that while documenting it. And then also I get to create a piece of content that, you know, maybe helps someone else that is struggling with the overthinking of being 30 plus and still not really being super comfortable cooking and knowing what to buy at the grocery. That might help someone. Or maybe there's some other kind of tangent takeaway from an experience like that that could be helpful to other people in some way. Maybe it's not cooking explicitly, but maybe it's the process of how I got to organizing my stuff to be able to make something, or I don't know, I won't know what those things are until I do it. And that's kind of the point. And the point of all of this is like there's lots of hidden things once we start. And we don't know what most of those are until we start. So pick something, pick anything, because there will be some hidden magic along the way. So even though I was initially overthinking what week A would be, it just ended up being really convenient that anything was a word that came up. Alinea is a word that came up. And I was talking with my little private group of people doing the alphabet superset, all kind of working on it together, that if I can't think of a theme for a week, I'm literally just going to pick anything, like frickin' make anything. And here we are. That's the theme of the week. Alinea is one of my favorite-ish phrases. I got this from my friend Ariel, so also convenient that Ariel is A for a week. And she introduced Alinea as, in my interpretation now, of Alinea is the phrase of beginning again. It's the symbol of the pilcrow, aka the paragraph marker, the beginning of a paragraph. So Alinea as basically the beginning of a new train of thought. I kind of adopted the name Team Alinea in our Creator Coalition group. Of basically, we kept kind of coming to this essence of getting overwhelmed by certain things or feeling bad about procrastinating, and we just kept inviting each other to begin again. Like no matter how long it's been since our last upload, or how we might have faltered on our goals, the importance is to just begin again with where you're at right now. Like it doesn't matter, like we're not worried too much about the next week, not worried about the past week and beyond. It's like right now, let's just start from where we are. It's not a full-on starting over, because it's like we probably still have our primary goals, we still have our primary intentions, but we just need this little micro clean slate. So we're just beginning again from where we are. So for me, that's a week, is Alinea, beginning again. No matter, like, the goal is still the same. Like, getting to the point where I'm posting weekly is, for some reason, it's just like it's kind of fixed in my brain as that's the thing to work towards. And it's not even about the YouTube views or the subscribers or anything like that. It's more about the processes and the discipline and the character growth that I'll have as a result of getting to a point where I'm posting weekly. And eventually some probably more important, more meaningful goal will arise, but for now that's just like the focusing lens. But I have to constantly be able to begin again almost every single day, every single week, if I ever want to get to that point where I can actually achieve that. On a similar vein of beginning again, I'm getting better about not actually just straight up reading my script. I'm getting more into a flow. This feels good. And this, kind of going to my notes on my journal, is like I couldn't even get out of the door without having more thoughts on what I wanted to talk about. I was realizing picking anything, and not knowing the whole process, there's a very good chance that this episode is going to be very messy. The whole process of trying to set things up, finding a place, how's the audio going to be. I don't know if you can hear the highway in the background or the noise or whatever. There's so many things I can't plan for. It's going to feel messy. It's going to be messy. And it's not something I can anticipate at the start of the journey. At the start, I needed to read off to the script, and every now and then I need to read off of my notes, but once I got into a flow, I expected I would just read off of my script 90% of this whole thing, and it's now maybe 50-50. That's, again, something I can't plan before the journey starts. So, just beginning where you are, beginning again, pick something, anything, and I guess just kind of go along for the ride. In the Waking Up app, by Sam Harris, which is something I joined last month and really enjoy it. I'm a big fan of the way that Sam Harris does his meditations, which I also have a link to join that if anyone is interested. It's 30 days free. I don't think it's an affiliate thing. I think it's just if someone wants to join, here's a thing you can share with them. So if you're interested in that, that's down below. But in most of the meditations I've listened to so far, he ends his meditation, the last minute of the meditation, he says something to the effect of, for the last minute of this meditation, begin again as if you just started. And for me, this is a helpful reminder that in every moment, we can treat now as a gentle beginning, letting go of the past stories and simply being present with what's happening right now. And to treat every moment, no matter if we're at the start line, in the middle of the race, or right before the finish line, we can treat it as if it's the fresh start. This invigorated energy. We can kind of recapture all of that energy that we have vented out, maybe because things aren't going well, or we're starting to doubt ourselves for getting distracted or whatever. It's if this was the start line, how would we be feeling? And we can oftentimes just kind of invite that energy back into ourselves and now use that energy to move forward with that new recaptured energy. It's only in the now and looking forward that we can begin to change how tomorrow looks. Doing something, anything, will change the trajectory of the future compared to staying in our inactive, stagnant, procrastinating state. This also brought back a comment that I saw on Reddit by user Ryans01. He was giving some suggestions to someone that was like down in the pits with life, and he shared like 4 nice little rules for life. I'm not going to go over all of them, but the one that really stood out was his rule of having no 0 days, as in for no day to be a 0 day. So at least every day should be doing at least one thing of the thing, whatever the thing is. If it's exercising, do at least 1 push-up every day, but never 0 push-ups that day. The goal isn't doing some intense exercise, it's not doing 100 push-ups, it's not even doing 10 push-ups, it's not even doing 2 push-ups, it's just 1 push-up. Something, anything. Granted, there's a good chance that once you do 1, then you're kind of in a momentum and a flow and you start doing more, but that's not the point. The point is just making sure that you don't have a day that is a 0 day. So if it's writing, it could be writing 1 sentence. If it's meditation, it could be 30 seconds of meditation, or having 1 breath with full awareness of the entire duration of the breath from start to finish. If it's decluttering, it could be decluttering 1 item. If it's getting outside, maybe just walk on the porch, and that's it, and go back in. That's it. Like my version of that for the ABC superset, alphabet superset, is that I wanted to get outside for at least 1 part of the recording of every video that week. And my minimum for that is like I could literally go outside, take 3 seconds video of the sky as a time lapse, and cool, I met my quota. But there's a good chance that like I'll get outside, it'll feel good, and then I'll like start filming some other stuff for B-roll, or maybe I'll get in my car and drive somewhere and record a segment, kind of like I'm doing today. Another version of beginning again and doing something, anything, is morning pages. And basically morning pages is you just write non-stop for 3 pages, or if it's doing digital, I do like 10 minutes or something. And the goal is just to write whatever's on your mind, not to worry about the quality or the content of it. Like there's a good chance it's going to go in the waste bin, or it's just going to go on the shelf, in a box, whatever. But the idea is, just getting thoughts out, beginning wherever you are. Just pick something to write about, even if it's just saying, I don't know what to write about, I'm just writing on this page until something becomes apparent, and eventually something might become apparent, and then I'll write on that. And you just like keep writing until 3 pages are done. And oftentimes I do have like more ideas for like, YouTube videos or podcasts, or it's a way for me to process through certain things that I'm going through. But that has been a really good practice for me. I'm not daily on it, but it's a really good practice for me to just like not overthink needing to make something high quality. It's like I'm just going through this process of writing something, anything. And later, if something out of that is actually valuable or worth my time to enhance more, then I can dive deeper into that. But it's a really good practice of doing something, anything. So if you're looking to get into writing, or trying to process your thoughts, or just feeling overwhelmed by things, morning pages could be a good place to start. It's tempting to want to pour a ton of energy into some massive change, and there are times for that for sure, but to do something, anything, is simply to focus on today and overcoming inertia in this moment. Don't overthink if it's going to be worth it, or if it's the right time, and so on. If you're not moving, instead of analyzing what's the most important thing, you need to do something, anything. Like literally pick an idea out of a hat if you must, or pick the one that's the most obvious to you now. Otherwise, you run the risk of continuing the same day of avoiding what's most important. And today, what's most important is simply what gets you moving. So you can find links and information in the show notes below. Reach out or comment if you have any questions or want to share something, anything, about what you learned on today's podcast. I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day or night, and thanks for listening.